Welcome into Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports college football game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Demetri Ravanos Demetri. Happy days to you, my friend. We're talking about the game again.
Can I ask you a question? This is a genuine question. It is a trend that I have noticed, and I want to know what is up with you.
Okay.
This is the third episode in a row that Michigan has been the background image.
Is it really?
It is. What did Michigan do to you?
That is a note I was not expecting to be taken about this video game podcast. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of this is sort of to repent for the COVID year, thinking that Jim Harbaugh should have been fired for that year. A lot of people did. Basically, at the end of the year, it's like, nope, we're not playing Ohio State.
You're like, that was the year that was the year that, well, we're not going to fire you and you can stay, but you're going to have to give us money, right? Isn't that the year that they made him give back money right there?
You're like, we're going to need a check. That's all. Like, we're cool with you, but you can't just be bad and not play Ohio State.
Right. Put down a deposit. Reserve your spot now as head coach at the University of Michigan.
Oh, is the head coaching spot, is it sponsored? Because it's probably by Jim Harbaugh now.
I'm almost positive it is.
Could you imagine a current coach sponsoring the title of that team? The Jim Harbaugh coaching, head coaching, I guess what would we call it? Let's go with the University of Michigan head coaching position occupied by Jim Harbaugh.
I like it. The ultimate flex, I think, would be for Nick Saban to make Hugh Freeze the Saban family Auburn University head football coach.
Listen, I get all the spots. By the way, this is going to be an Ask Us Anything episode.
Yeah. An AIA, if you will. Well, no, I guess a AUA.
Yeah. Reddit does the Ask Me Anything thing, and they got that, so they can keep that for now. We're going to go Ask Us Anything because it's just two of us. So that's coming up in just a second. But I get people sponsoring and like donating and getting things named after them. But I think the best one that I've ever heard is in Tuscaloosa, right?
The fail room, right?
The fail room, which is the visitor locker room.
Yes.
That wasn't named the fail room because of them wanting the visitors to lose, but it just so happened to be the last name of that donor, right?
Did you ever see the College Game Day segment they produced on this? Like that donor, Old Man Fail, whatever his whole name is.
Old Man Fail.
He's like Eeyore come to life. Because he was, I mean, like his whole thing was like, oh, shucks, I donate to the university, but I know they don't want my name on nothing.
It's just raining again over me.
Hi, Bear.
Well, Tigger, I don't know much else to say.
Yes,
I haven't seen Christopher Robin in weeks.
If you have not seen it, go just look for it because this guy he's like delightfully sad about everything.
I'm gonna find it and then I'm gonna post it in the link description of the episode if I can find it because I want to see this Alabama Eeyore that donated so much money that he got the visitors locker room, which is a pretty big spot, and the fact that he's an Eeyore and his name is Fail, like. How does a guy like that with that personality and that name make enough money to be able to donate to the University of Alabama and name the locker room after him?
Arky, I tend to believe everybody with enough money to donate and get things named after them at the University of Alabama did nothing to make that money. I'm sure they were all born into it.
Can I be honest with you? That's exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
Because you have what is called sidewalk alum, and then you have the birthed into it alum.
I am all for sidewalk alum in college football.
I have no problem with it. People get really uppity, and it's like I don't understand. Like
up here in North Carolina, if your hoodie or whatever is just slightly the wrong shade of baby blue, oh man, the shouts of Walmart fan from the crowd.
It's like, all right, Sam Walton here. What's going on? Real quick, here's the fail room. This is based on a press release from Alabama, the University of.
I think it's Charles Fail, right?
The 2008. It's James M. Fail.
Yep, I was there. I got it.
I love this. Despite a lifetime of philanthropic giving to variety of causes, James M. Fail never felt the desire to have anything actually named in his honor. Quote, after all, who would want anything with the name Fail on it?
Oh, Jimmy.
Mal Moore, the director of athletics, then rest in peace. This naming opportunity came at Mr. Fail's request. What? What? Why would anybody want? And then you requested it? Come on, Mr. Fail. Are you putting on airs for us?
Jimmy Fail really does sound like a 1930s comic strip. It's just about the misadventures of the most inept human being on the planet.
I was gonna say, what's the? It would go right next to the comic strip. What's the one where like the little guy's getting beat by his wife every week or something?
Oh, Andy Cap.
Yeah, yes. Mr. Fail has been such a strong supporter of ours and already made a significant gift to name our media suite in memory of his late father-in-law, former Birmingham Post Herald sports editor Naylor Stone. But he had always been hesitant to use his unique name for a naming right until the right opportunity came along.
Naylor Stone is a gay porn name if I've ever heard one.
Oh, man. I like that name a lot. In fact, I think I'm going to Google it after this episode just to see.
Is it too late to change your son's name?
It's not. I think he got up until 3. So, we've got a little wiggle room. If we get to September, then we got to sort of pull that trigger a little sooner than I'm expecting for. Yeah. Okay, there's not much else that's really interesting in that.
Probably start talking about that video game at
that press release. So the EA Sports College Football video game is not coming out for a minute or two. So
talk to you next week, everybody.
That sucks. That's the update. We got nothing else. But we did ask for you guys to sort of ask us anything. We've never done an episode like this, so let's keep some of these ideas coming in the future. We may compile them, as the episodes stack upon each other. So what I do have for you, Mr. Demetri, is some commentary and some questions from those who've been listening to this here podcast, some since day one, some since later than day one.
Okay, very good. Every podcast is someone's first, and we welcome you all.
Yes. I would like to start with something that's at the very basis of what's about to be discussed fairly commonly on this here podcast. And if you'll turn your attention to the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, and Mr. Demetri Ravanos, and if you're listening to the podcast, good luck. We'll probably read the question too. But this comes from Uncle Mike, who tweeted at me earlier in the day, said, how do emulators work? I have a PS5, so no go there, but I do have a PC.
All right, so before you dive into this, especially the gameplay, can you, because you've done this for us before, but just because, again, every episode is someone's first, emulators start with a game that already exists, right? And then they... What? That's where you lose me.
And then that's it? Okay, so never presume people know what you're talking about while you're talking about it. And there's some people knowing this already know what emulators are. In fact, they've been playing college football revamped on the video game itself, on one of the emulators itself. So here's essentially what the emulators have done. For the older video game systems, Super Nintendo, Sega, PS3, those older video game systems, you want to be able to have a way to be able to play them. You want to, as a way to play them essentially on your computer screen. A lot of people like to sort of get those games on a computer screen mainly. There are people that like to try to put it a Super Nintendo on their PS3. It's really hard and complicated.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. But essentially, you're playing a console game onto your computer screen. So what you do is essentially you find the software game file that's associated with the game that you want to play. Now, I do technically, legally, probably have to say this. Are you ready, Demetri?
I'm ready.
I do not advocate piracy. Okay? So essentially, now technically we're not streaming any of these games this moment, so it's not as big of a deal just to talk about it.
Right.
But let's say you had a copy of NCAA 14, right?
Right.
So you want to be
There's
able
one downstairs in my home.
you want to be able to play that on your PC.
Right.
So the way you do that is you go find an emulator. Emulators are free. There's a few of them. There's one I like in particular. Let me get the name right because it's got letters and numbers, and I always end up messing it up. It's RPCS3.
Okay.
All right. All that is just a big chunk of file, and it's the interface for you to be able to play that video game. So you take that video game, put it into your computer, rip the files, rip the game to your computer, and then drag it over to RPCS3 in my case. There are other ones for PS3. There are other ones for Super Nintendo, PlayStation 2, PS1, things like that.
Okay.
So essentially that's what you're doing is you're taking the game that you have a copy of, especially if you want to stream, finding that file for it, ripping it over, and then playing it on your computer that way. What essentially has happened with games like what makes college football, NCAA football 2014 so unique is that there have been this group of super wizards with game developing that over this last decade have essentially broken into the software itself to be able to edit it to where you can have current teams on there, current jerseys, updated graphics, and things like that. And a lot of times, those who develop those games
Right.
at the very beginning shut them down. But EA has been very nice to let the college football revamped guys do it. And technically, EA could shut them down, but they haven't.
Right.
So it's happened a lot. So what I tell you this is that if you wanted to go find NCAA football video game, right? If you wanted to play it onto your screen, you have to get that game. So you either have a copy of a game or you find a copy of the game. My DMs are open. Not for paid, just I could tell you there.
Sure.
But as long as you have a copy of the game, you're technically safe to stream it. But if you're not streaming it, you can just play it. And then you just sort of play that game on your computer. You play it with just like I play it with my Xbox controller, right? So you can set it up pretty easily that way as well. It takes a little bit of setup to get going, but like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. In fact, with my new season that's about to start releasing on YouTube, where I'm now officially a member of the New Mexico Lobos, Gobos.
Congratulations.
I have gone from NCAA 14 to the college football revamped mod, which is a modification of that game. So essentially, to answer the question in the shortest term, it takes the game that you ideally already have, takes those files and places it to where you can play it conveniently onto your PC.
All right, that I think is as thorough a explanation as you are going to get. I think
it's all you need. It's as thorough. You can go deeper into it, but you don't need anything more thorough than that just to understand it, to play it. Because we will talk about college football revamped a lot, and another thing I found over the weekend that we'll talk about at some point this spring too.
Which, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people saw it, NCAA 2K23. I saw a lot of people sharing it on Twitter. We have been told to hold off a week for the next update before we actually dive in and give it an official review. So that's what we're going to do. I mean, look, here's the shitty thing about emulators is I am a PlayStation guy and I'm a Mac guy. I have no way to access these things. Well, it blows, but it's the truth.
I think you can, and I'm not a Mac guy, so I don't know this for sure, but I think you can get those emulators on Macs too.
Yeah.
Like, so if you wanted the RPCS3, which again, it's just a program that plays your game. That's all it is. Then I think you can get it onto your Mac too. So Demetri, I'll send you a website link and we'll get to play against each other. Well, you can't play against each other, but we'll play with each other. You know what I'm saying? High five.
Yeah.
All
right. Wieners.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Next question
Ball states
from T. Christian, who says, here's my question for you guys. If EA contacts you and says, hey, we really love the coverage and attention that your show has brought to the game. So for all of your hard work and care, we will let you choose one new feature to implement in the game, but it has to be realistic and not bring any negative attention to the sport, and one old feature that we will bring back from an old game. Which features do you choose and why?
All right, I want to make sure I understand this. So we get to put something in the game as long as it does not embarrass college football, and we get to bring back something from an old game.
Yes.
Okay. Bringing back from the old game, I want a soundtrack that is not just drums looped over and over again. I want the NCAA 06 soundtrack back, or something modeled after the NCAA 06 soundtrack.
Okay. What do you want as a new feature?
I mean, I banged the drum for it so much. I think I've got to say a story mode, right?
You have been doing a lot of banging on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and mad respect for that.
Yes. No, I
So
take it back. So I do story mode is my new feature. Bring back. I want create a team back. Period.
okay, all right. Um, okay, as far as old feature that I want back, for me, it's a no brainer. I want probation mode back.
Okay.
I want the ability to screw up so much that whatever Illuminati of college football will exist by the time
Yeah.
this game comes out. I want them to be able to look at you and say, "You're done. You're
Yeah.
done. Your death penalty, your probation, your penalties by scholarships or whatever." Like I want there to be some kind of, because I think if you just go and break all the rules or do all the like there's no consequence to your action, then where's the realism, right?
I mean, again, it goes back to all of last week's episode of talking about that RPO or RPG element of that should exist in the next game, right? Like, how are you going to go about playing this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think if you're going to let me essentially run the farm constantly and do whatever I want all the time, then for me that's not fun.
Yeah.
Like unless there's some pushback from somewhere. And I think primarily if you have the shadow government of the NCAA looking down upon you and judging you at some point, or even if it's like Greg Sankey saying you got to come meet with me because why did you hire Arky Shea, someone who's
Right.
clearly bought prostitutes
Mm-hmm.
before? Then yeah, I think
Is that based on a true story? Your
no,
scenario based on a true story at all?
no,
Oh, okay.
completely made up.
Okay.
Even the name Greg Sankey.
Yeah.
Don't even know where that came from. Just top of the head, right? But actually, I saw a billboard that said something like John Skanky or something. I was just
Right.
like, all right, let's just manipulate it.
You passed that truck stop, Greg Stuckey's.
I did. I'll be honest with you. On the
Yeah.
way back from Tennessee, I did do that. Yeah, I knew exactly where it was. As far as the new feature, I think the biggest boon that I'd be interested in is the decommit. The decommit flip
like
commit sort of structure, because I don't think a ton has to be done to recruiting to make it better. Obviously, the transfer portal is going to be in the game,
of course,
but I want there to be a game after I, let's say, beat Tennessee by 30, I lose to Ole Miss by 10.
right?
Where commit's like, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little excited about being in the stadium. That's my bad. Listen, you can't help it.
I mean, listen, you saw this happen in whatever the last week of the regular season was, right? You saw the story about the 2 Ohio State recruits that went to the game and ended up committing to Michigan as a result of going to that game, even though they were there to do an official visit with Ohio State.
Yeah, I would also like, as far as that's concerned, like if I can officially, you name the invites, right? And we've talked about how you used to be able to choose what to talk to them.
Right.
In the last game, you couldn't. You're just like, hey, I hope you show up on the same time as my guys show up, and you get like a positive net benefit there. But like if you lose, or if this, you win by 60 and no one cares, then maybe you do, lose the kid to the opposing team.
Yeah.
Right. And that affects you as a head coach or something. So, that's what I would like to see. This comes from someone who Twitter from named Logan, who said, hey, just a thought. What if the Reese Davis and David Pollock involvement is not game day, and it's more of a college football playoff selection show in Dynasty mode?
I like that idea. It would be. It feels like if it's going to be a playoff selection show, it feels like it would have to be both, right? Like I can't imagine you're signing those guys to just provide 3 minutes of audio that you use one time in a season.
Yes. Although, again, David Pollock may have just been mouthing because he's had 7 seconds of audio in the game anyway, and he's like, I'm super excited. Right, so he's literally the only one that's like completely confirmed.
It's funny you say that, like, because I thought about this and forgot to mention it on the show. I think more than Erin Andrews. Erin Andrews, certainly her role was crazy reduced in the last game, right?
Oh yeah.
But Erin Andrews had a bigger presence before. I think David Pollock is the one that, because it is possible to just hit X and skip through everything he said, I bet there are people that do not know he was on the last game.
Oh, there's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's people watching this, they're like, David Pollock was in the last game? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, fresh off of playing for the Bengals, right? Like, he's on the game day set, and he's mentioning, the Pontiac halftime show. Let's give you, like, 6.5 seconds worth of content here. And we're going, I'm one of those guys also. Like, if you play as the coach, right, of one side of the ball especially, you're simulating the other side, or you don't have control of the other side.
Right.
When you go to halftime, you come back to the second half, you never see that.
Yep.
Like, you could go many seasons without even having the chance to see that. Like, I think you have to, like, have the ball maybe kneeling at the end of the half or finishing out the half, then be very quiet with your controller for it to seamlessly go into, sort of the halftime show that it had before.
This is an assignment for you all listening and watching for next week. I just want to know, and granted, this is not the right sample set to do this with, because we are all fanatics about the game. But do you, or does anyone in your life not realize, or did not realize until listening to this, that David Pollock was a part of the game? Because I think it is possible. And that's not a shot at David Pollock. It's just the way he was positioned in the game. It is possible to never hear his voice.
Oh, that's my favorite part. Like, it's like an Easter egg, right?
Yeah.
Like, you hear David Pollock, and you're like, I'm sorry, what? Okay. They just embedded something I had no idea was here. Okay. Next question. This comes from Denny Berry. Says, hey guys, first time, long time. A Shapoopy halftime show is definitely the DLC we need.
I don't know
the Music Man? Do you know Shapoopy? You don't know Shapoopy?
I don't.
Wow. I think it's a Disney movie, but I don't know if it's Disney technically. But the Music Man's a Disney movie, right?
Oh, the Music Man.
From like
I thought you were saying this movie was called Shapoopy. No, the Music Man's a Broadway play.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a sorry. Can I be honest with you?
Please.
I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings on that one. Okay, I know it mainly as, first, I think I found out about it because I think it was a Family Guy spoof.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. I've seen the Family Guy spoof. I did not know that came from anything.
And I think the actual movie that I know that it's sort of coming from is like, it's like the early 60s, maybe mid 60s, something like that, when they actually put it to film. Like when they definitely had the color patterns figured out, definitely on the screen, when nothing looked weird. Go back and watch something just for a few minutes from like 1963 and just be like, wow, nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, this does not hurt my eyes at all.
Throw on Showboat.
Excuse me. Next one. This comes from IE Big Cat, contributor to the program. I believe your energy and the way you two work together, I would love have you in the booth for the new game. Anyone else? ? IE Big Cat, I cannot confirm, but we've been doing some lines. Cocaine, mainly.
Yeah.
We haven't recorded any of that because we don't want that out, but we've done some lines. Let me ask you this, Demetri. Let's say, I'm only going to say this because I'm kind of putting it out to the world because I want this to happen. You ready? Okay.
Ready.
Let's say someone at EA happens to see this particular episode and this segment we're talking about right now.
We know you watch it.
And say, okay, we're thinking about it. We're thinking about having a Demetri and Arky, maybe not a booth, but we're going to have a section of the game, a small section, to where you hear their voice.
Oh, hear our voice. I was going to say,
what do you want your voice over?
Arky, I'm so glad you asked this because I get to tell the story. Do you know who Myron Metcalf is at ESPN?
I do.
Okay. So Myron is a friend of a friend, right? And he was on ESPN radio one day talking about that he was about to get to do color commentary for the first time ever for a college basketball game. And he was asking people what, you know, for advice from people that have never called a game before, right? And somewhere along the way, it dovetailed into what his catchphrase should be. And so I texted him because I had had him on my show in the past and said, I don't know why this is the case, but from the time I was a kid, I always thought like a great big play call or a great big play signature line would be, and this I bring this up because this would be mine in the game, Mio Mayo, Puddin' and Pio. When you say it to yourself,
Okay.
Arky, hang on, listen, hear me out.
Okay.
When you say it to yourself, say it in a Keith Jackson impersonation. Mio
Does
Mayo,
give it a little
Puddin'
bit
and
of like
Pio.
it does give it like a an air of gravitas.
Yeah.
If you say it quite like that. Yeah. So now did you take Myron Metcalf's phrase?
No. That was my phrase that I
Okay.
gave to Myron Metcalf, and I can confirm he did use it in a college basketball game.
He did.
He sent me audio, yes.
Demetri, this is what I want. I popped my nuggets there for you may have heard it, seen it. I don't know.
I both did.
I saw this question a few days ago when it was posted. And I did very little thinking about it because I know exactly what it wants to be.
Oh, okay.
And it actually will be us in the booth.
Hmm.
But we're only in play now mode.
Okay.
And it has to be a specific game. So if you're in play now mode, and I don't know what the game would be, that's what I would like your help.
Oh, okay.
With. But let's say it's like it'd be lower tier, right? It'd be
yeah.
It's not gonna be Notre Dame, Michigan, but it could be Liberty, UMass. It could
shouldn't it
Arkansas State, UCF.
Shouldn't it be the canonical favorite matchup of this show, FIU versus Hawaii?
I wouldn't hate that either. But again, like it's not a game that's going to get triggered in a ton of Dynasty modes, but it's in play now mode. And if you play it and you turn on the audio, it's our audio. Like we only do one set of audio, but you get us in the booth or let us record from our homes. We got stuff. And you let us broadcast a bunch of lines from one specific game that has to be triggered by a specific combination of teams. You know what? I would never talk badly about Electronic Arts ever again.
I love it.
No matter what they do.
Look, there is my FIU diploma over my shoulder. EA, FIU versus Hawaii. Make it so. Make it the Arky and Demetri game.
I would be so in love with that. It's so niche, right?
Like yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic.
It's so niche that it'd be dumb if they didn't do it. Are you hearing us, Electronic Arts? We're sending this to you.
Yeah.
It'd be dumb if you didn't do it.
Yeah, frankly, it'd be racist if you didn't do
it. Frankly, you're going to find out what cancel culture is all about.
That's right.
If you don't do it. And I promise you this. I will tell people if we're in the game. I will go ahead and tell people if we're in the game.
You know what? I'm just going to tell people we are in the game. So you might as well make it true. Don't make a liar out of me.
Don't make a liar out of Demetri, Electronic Arts. Okay. Last one we got, right. And then we'll wrap this bad boy up. By the way, comments are always welcome below. If you got any questions, we'll stockpile those for another episode that we'll do down the road here. As Christmas time is coming, and you guys need to stock up on these episodes anyway. This comes from BTD, a God. I think that's Kid Rock's song, right? BTD, a God, with the ba. Right?
Very good.
So, what is your favorite Dynasty moment ever?
Well, for me, it would have to be going back to the Ming Dynasty in China. I think they really had just too many great moments to name, frankly, to pick just one.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not gonna hate that. Would it be the 3 or 4 times the Alabama dynasty has died?
Yes.
Yes, that would be appropriate here.
I assume this is sort of like asking, tell me your best Dynasty mode accomplishment.
No, I think here's the great thing about BTD a god. I think is that question is interpreted however we want to
Okay.
interpret it.
All right.
Right?
Sure.
Okay. So let me tell you something that I guess I could talk about because it's actually happened on the podcast not the podcast, on the video game recently that I've been putting on YouTube.
Okay.
It's not about winning a national championship. You win those, you win a bunch of records, you win accomplishments, achievements. I love the feature itself. But the greatest Dynasty moment I ever had, it's probably because I built this up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
At Georgia State, I won the last 2 games of the year as the OC. I got fired for some dumbass reason. I get a job from at Idaho, and Coach Glenn Patrick gives me a call. We win the last 5 games of the season, then win the bowl game. He gets hired at New Mexico. I got no job prospects, but literally at the very end of the job board, Glenn Patrick calls me to be his OC at New Mexico. I had nothing. I wanted to leave Idaho just because it's really hard there.
Sure.
But my coach, the guy who believed me when I got fired and I was at my lowest, went to a new place and thought about me, hired me at New Mexico.
It is a beautiful story. For me, I got to go all the way back to NCAA 04, Arky. This is on PS2. This is when we still have FCS teams in the game. Arky, it was using UT Chattanooga as a new member of Conference USA and becoming so dominant that we were asked to replace South Carolina in the SEC.
Yes. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I really loved the old college games. This was true in both football and basketball, that you could be so good, you would get called up, and you could be so bad, you would get booted out. Now, I only remember that happening in the basketball game, that I was so bad as I was learning to play. I think I was probably using Alabama, that I got bumped down to like Conference USA or something like that.
Relegation is not a terrible feature for the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. It's a fun feature. All right? Put it in. Hey, before we get out of here, one quick thing of actually news since we last spoke. Did you see the news that the WAC and Atlantic Sun are they have 10 teams that have combined that are going to come up to FBS soon and form a brand new conference?
Wait, say that one more time?
So there are 10 total teams that have been to discussions, and they've partnered a coalition of the willing from the WAC and the Atlantic Sun, the A-Sun.
Oh, sure.
And their 10 football programs are combining to come up from the FCS level to FBS. The quote is soon, but I'm not sure how soon that is. But we'll have another FBS conference.
So I knew when the WAC came back as an FCS conference, I knew their goal was to eventually reemerge as an FBS conference. I did not know, and I knew they had some sort of partnership with the Atlantic Sun. I did not know that those two things were related. I thought it was just a matter of the WAC going, well, we can't play with just 6 teams.
Right. It's like, listen, you can only stretch it so far. Right? Do you see what they're calling this partnership online, by the way?
Is it called the WAC-A-Sun?
Whack-a-Sun.
Whack-a-Sun. Nice.
Don't change the name, right?
Don't
just smush them together.
Yeah, because what are you going to do? Call it the Coast to Coast Conference? Get the hell out of here.
We have 3 of those already. I don't know why we needed another Coast to Coast Conference as it is. But that's cool because then we'll get even more teams in the game itself. And that, I would love to see that. Keep on coming. Got teams like right here in North Alabama, the University of North Alabama over in Florence. They're part of the Atlantic Sun, and they're about to find themselves in an FBS conference because why not? Keep coming.
Sure.
Keep bringing it. Give us another conference.
When we were children, Arky,
we were young.
There are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 FBS teams in the state of Alabama. When we were children, 2 of them did not exist. One of them was, I believe, a Division II school, and we will have 2 of those in that case if the Whack-A-Sun does, in fact, become an FBS conference.
I cannot fathom how happy I am inside to hear you're already going out with Whack-A-Sun.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
now,
it makes
it's now in the
sense.
brain.
Yeah.
The Whack-A-Sun's a beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is that this podcast is over because now you get to start pining for next week's episode. So in the meantime, leave those comments. Demetri, say goodbye to the good people.
Save and sip to next week, everybody.